Are you ready, Ron?
Sort of, yes.
All right, because It's Just a Model, a lovely conversation with Ron, Kersic, and myself, Peet Sneekes. And we talk about design, philosophy, technology. Are there E's I forgot? Probably innovation is a big topic. We haphazardly also stumble upon AI sometimes, just because of your profession and my fascinations. And culture. Culture might also be a thing. I think that might be relevant for this episode. So, and you kind of like, So I did a big prep, right? I said, man, I need to have something for this episode that kind of sets it off to other episodes. And it just heard you also did the same thing. So I'm really, really keen to find out what your thing is.
Yeah, so I was ununiquely prepared for this podcast.
All right.
I have 3 bullet points.
Yeah. I saw them. Yeah.
It pales into insignificant about what you collected. No, I really would like to spend a few minutes on the bitter lesson of the month.
The bitter lesson of the month. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds lovely.
The bitter lesson by now is a quite legendary blog post by Richard Sutton on the state of art in artificial intelligence. I'm sorry, it's AI again.
Yeah.
It's from 2019.
That's really early for AI.
Yeah.
Or at least for modern
it's
AI.
but I mean, it's so he observed the fact that it's you can make artificial intelligence systems by encoding knowledge and domain wisdom and domain practices in there.
Yes.
Right. That's one way of doing it. You can make a chess computer by by programming the computer on all things to know about chess.
Yeah, kind of the rules,
etc.
and the patterns, I guess.
Yeah. Right, and then the opening library and all that kind of stuff. So it's and you talk to chess masters and how do they look at a board, and maybe you can encode that one into the system, and then you have a system that plays chess.
Yeah.
What you can also do is build a really, 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 really big computer that just does a very deep and thorough search of all possible positions. And so far ahead that no chess master can actually compete.
Yeah.
Pick the best move, and so you win from Garry Kasparov.
There was kind of, indeed. That was the IBM Watson way to do things.
Deep Blue.
Oh, Deep Blue.
And,
exactly.
And that's the bitter lesson that in the long run, more compute always turns out to be the better solution.
Ha!
Another example that he gave also in 2019 in his blog post is that speech synthesis. So getting a computer to generate speech. And if you now look at the current state of art, but if you go to Notebook LM, and if you would give it a transcript of this podcast, then you get 2 people discussing about our podcast. And it's
and it's really meta, but
it's really meta.
Meta.
It's really meta because meta is better. No. But it's really interesting, and you really have they sound like 2 people, and they say and and they laugh and they joke, and it's really convincing.
And they play to each other, but it's a script. I found out. You really can tell that it's
sure. But
the banter is like repetitive.
Totally. But the voice is really convincing.
It's very nice indeed.
And once upon a time, people try to do speech synthesis by actually modeling the vocal tract and the vocal cords and. Right? So again, this is modeling the domain or simulating the domain or approaching the domain. You can also just do spend a whole bunch of computing power and a whole bunch on training power on speech patterns and just have a system that knows nothing about voice and human voices and just mimic things.
Like a parrot.
In a sense, right? And I had my bitter lesson myself when ChatGPT happened because I spent more than a decade on building code generators or autocoders or 4GLs or whatever you want to call them, right? And I got them to a really, I like to think, pretty nifty state of art. But these things were really complex software systems, right? And I had abstract syntax trees, and I was modeling knowledge, and had 4 layers of meta models, M0 to M3. right? So you
Here
have
we go.
objects, classes, meta classes, meta classes, and with the meta class, you can also do a meta class. So it's right.
It's turtles all the way down.
Yeah. So it's fantastic. And then this thing comes along that doesn't know anything about syntax or semantics for that matter.
Yeah.
Just saw pretty much any piece of code on the World Wide Web, was given a whole lot of GPU power, compute power, to figure out patterns in there, and then given a lot of compute power to actually generate plausible fragments.
Yeah.
And it turns out if you train long enough and hard enough, plausible means correct. So now you have this thing that does code to an impressive level, almost unbelievably good level, to the degree that I see software engineers not software engineering anymore in the sense that they make code, because the code is better.
Yeah.
It really is. And it doesn't know anything about the programming language. That's the bitter lesson.
So
which I find
are
fascinating.
you saying that your efforts before LLMs were futile? That it was for nothing, for naught?
No, it was hugely enjoyable.
You got smarter.
I got smarter, and it is something I wanted to build, and I'm still fascinated to this day by compilers and these kind of things, right? But, and here's the bitter lesson, if you want a better solution, it's just throw more compute power at it. Or wait until Moore's law is advanced far enough that you can throw more compute power at it. And there is something, I don't know, sad about this, right? Because it doesn't know anything about the domain it's modeling, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and people always keep telling me, of course, generative AI works for programming language because programming languages have to be correct, and otherwise
they are formal languages.
But that's the thing. It's not trained on the formal system.
No.
It's not trained on a formal grammar. It's trained on the expressions of the formal grammar.
Yeah.
And apparently, if you train it, if you give it enough examples and enough power to do all these training iterations, you get something that knows jack shit about the grammar, pardon my language, and still makes it fit into the grammar.
Yeah.
You know, and that is a really picky grammar. Get one comma wrong and it explodes.
But it's all. That's
doesn't.
It sounds like it's very frustrating to you that you can be bested by sheer compute power, and even then the result is, if you would ask an LLM like, "Hey, what does this mean?" The thing that you just produced, it will say, "Oh." It will not know. It doesn't know why it is correct.
It gives you a mimicry of correctness.
Yeah.
And that mimicry, and that's the bitter lesson, with sufficient compute power, is so convincing that, I mean, it's almost like fiction is better than reality or surpasses reality, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
So that's what you have.
Reality surpasses fiction, I guess.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I mean, the fiction is boundless.
Okay, good.
I don't know. but so when I listened to you, I wanted to say, let me reframe what you say by saying it's not about the compute power, but it's about the capacity to learn. But basically, you say no. There's nothing learned, anything.
No,
it only emphasized patterns.
I mean, so what it learns is the derivation of the thing you're about to learn.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't learn about programming and programming language and syntax and semantics and patterns and anti-patterns. You learn from the expression of that.
Yeah.
And with enough compute, it's so accurate that it looks like it actually learned the semantics and everything. So it's the one level down that is so convincing that you have to believe it also knows the one level up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it. I mean, we always talk about sycophancy of specifically of LLMs. So somewhere in the interface, somebody decided it would say, "Okay, let's reward you when you say something to me."
Yeah.
It's like, that's a smart idea. Let's do that. Blah blah blah. But in fact, it is 100% sycophancy. So it is trying to mold itself towards your approval, right? Until you say this is a working program because I can run it through a compiler.
Yeah.
It will say, okay, the road up until then was, well, a little bit more correct, and then we can run it, and then it improves in quality, I guess. But still, it seeks, or it's not actively seeks, but it is. At the end of the line, it will. How do you call it? The quality is measured by our measures. So do we recognize it as a real language? Do we recognize it as being compilable?
Yeah, and do we recognize it as a certain type of behavior for which we have a term that we normally use in between people?
Exactly.
I mean, you wouldn't use that word that I'm trying to not use because I can't pronounce it. But we wouldn't use that word for a cat, for instance.
Superfluous?
Superfluous. See?
Yeah, but it's not that. Yeah,
no.
Okay.
Sycophancy. I mean,
sycophancy. Yeah.
If I say it really quick, you don't notice that I can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
Right? That's a thing. That's a phrase we typically reserve between people.
Yes.
You don't say that about the parking machine, right? That I have to use to actually do my parking here. You don't use it for your espresso machine,
nope.
Right? I mean, and now we have a machine and we use that word for, because it has been trained to replicate this behavior to such a degree of fidelity that we say, oh, stop it.
Yeah, but even then, the fidelity that we say, let's say we have music and we express fidelity as being music that's very enjoyable, but also has high quality, right? We can hear all the things, basically. That's how we express fidelity. But it's always us. It's always us as the measure of something being okay.
Yeah.
And I found it very interesting. So let's say this was a child. I mean, let's say a child is something with a certain amount of compute, and it learns from mommy and daddy how to talk.
Yeah.
Only a child will understand when it says blah, 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 it will get milk, or when it says something else, it will be comforted, etc. But an LLM doesn't know that at all. It doesn't reflect on what it gets in return. No. It doesn't make correlations in, okay, so if I tweak it a little bit like this, then people will understand me better, or then I can get something done. And that to me is very fascinating. So even with all that learning, with all that training, it's still like an amorphous blob. For all intents and purposes, it doesn't have consciousness, or it doesn't have purpose. For all intents and purposes.
No, I mean, and should it?
No. It's a tool, but we say it has all kinds of properties. You know, it's nice, it's helpful, it's friendly, it's wise even.
That's what we say. And again, that's the bitter lesson, right?
Yeah.
We created that machine, by just throwing a whole bunch of data and compute at it.
Yeah,
there is no knowledge graph in there, no ontologies, and it's nothing. There is no database of all human knowledge. It's a bunch of nodes with a value between 0 and 1.
So let's say this is a stage that we live in. We are now depressed. We're past the hype cycle. We're depressed about what we just reached, or let's say we learned about the level that we just reached.
I think it's fascinating because then you ask, I mean, what's the next lesson?
Exactly.
Right? And that's why I said the bitter lesson of the month. Before I get to that one, I mean, what I found also fascinating is, I mean, we had this bitter lesson at the end of last year, November, December.
Sure.
You had Gemini 3 Pro, Claude Opus 4.5 and ChatGPT 5.2 or Codex 5.2.
Yeah.
These coding agents that suddenly turned out to be really well.
Yes.
That you could give them longer running assignments, tasks that they actually completed and did really well.
Yeah.
Right? With all these point versions, right? 4.5, 5.2, not 6 Service Pack 1 or something. No. It's just it's a point release, right? And at first glance, these things look and feel the same. But it's not like when you have when you upgrade an app and suddenly you have an extra button, right? And now you can do this.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. No new features, new tricks.
It looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
But it isn't. And it's this amorphous thing. So what really changed? And you just don't know it, but you feel it, right? And suddenly you see, damn, I can actually do much better and different coding tasks.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's there, and everybody now talks about what happened in December. It's almost like an alien visit, right? I mean, something happened in December.
Something just locked into
Yeah.
place, if you will.
Yeah, I'm now referencing to a book called... I should not have
Link
said
in the show notes.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorite songs. Roadside Picnic.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Oh, you should read that one. It's about an alien visit without the aliens actually being in the book. It's fantastic.
Oh.
Because the thesis of the book is, if aliens ever visit Earth,
Yeah.
they will treat us the way we treat ants during our roadside picnic.
Right. Yeah, that's probably true.
We leave, and the ant still feasts week after we left on our little leftovers.
Yeah.
That's what the book is about. I love
That's
that one.
interesting.
How did I get to that one? I have no idea how I got to that one.
You were going to the next lesson. What might be the next lesson?
And of course now, so in a couple of the recent weeks, I saw security researchers and professional pen testers start noticing, these LLMs are getting really good. We don't know really why or how, but they seem to be really good at finding zero-day exploits in our software. Software we already have been working and investigating for the past 20 years.
For decades.
Decades.
Yeah.
And now it seems to find zero-day exploits.
Which is like it isn't the most basic exploit or basic bug or security breach, but it is. It should be like the most obvious one, right? It's something to go straight into one system and break the system without any like difficult paths or whatever.
Well, I mean, it could have difficult path, but it's your response time in fixing this is 0 days, as in now.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you have to. I mean, so it's a very fundamental flaw. It's
exactly. That's the word I was looking for.
And that is the no, but I was really surprised again by how surprised these professional security researchers were about the fact that something happened.
Yeah.
A roadside picnic, right? Something happened. We don't really know why, but we now see that the exploits being handed in by these tools are getting really, really, really good. Half a year ago, they were still very naive and a bit meh. And something happened.
Yeah.
Right, a roadside picnic. Something happened, and of course, now we have mythos.
All right. Yeah, I've actually already written a blog on mythos. Because to me it's like so I read the entire takeaway. There's this analysis of the people at Anthropic, what mythos, why mythos is what it is, but also they're measuring things.
Yeah.
And it seems
especially that.
To me, there were two takeaways from their brief or preview of the brief about the preview of Mythos, because it's not out in the open yet.
No.
Because they dubbed it a security risk, like or at least a possible security risk.
Yeah.
So the first takeaway from me was a thing like, okay, you have a certain the roadside picnic that happened, and all of a sudden there's more execution power. It seems like it is more capable into doing things, and they found out their imprint that they have for each of every model of the Anthropic models is not sufficient to counter all that power, or it's like Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility. They had more power than before, but they didn't adjust the amount of responsibility a model would take. It's like couching the security blanket, if you will. And that was their biggest insight. It's like, okay, we thought with this imprint that we give to all our LLMs, that it would just be more responsible with all the new power it's gotten. And the conclusion was, no, it's basically unaware of the amount of power it has and the consequences of the things that it does. And to me, that's like, wow, that's really weird, right? Because it's not an animate object. It's not a living being. How does that work? And that was the first conclusion that I read about. And the other one was, so why do we see this roadside picnic effect? And their conclusion seems to be that rather than so if you are a security expert, you're an expert on most of the time you're expert on a very specific domain, let's say a piece of program that is very risk sensitive, or you are very broad like a generalist and you know a little bit about something, right? And as a human, there's this Venn diagram that you can't overlap all the time. Right, an expert knows way more about a specific topic than a generalist would ever be. And now we're at a state that this LLM model knows way more than a generalist about everything, and it knows enough to even compete with an expert. And that combination makes it very dangerous, because all of a sudden it can't just say, okay, these are the specific security targets in this specific piece of program, let's say a web server or an operating system, but it knows all those things about all the other layers of applications and servers, etc. And by that knowledge, it also can make a horizontal route. Right? It can say, I can go through the OS, go through the server software, and creep into the browser software at the client side. And that is a new vector of a security breach. And that kind of seems to be like the capacity that makes
the capacity.
This particular LLM very, very dangerous.
Yeah, but that's the bitter lesson. It doesn't know jack shit.
No. It
right?
does.
It does.
Yes.
Right, and that's and apparently Anthropic learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
Right. So
they found out.
Yeah. I mean, but I have to say it like this, because this is it has a very strong whiff of marketing. Right?
We
have this thing, it's so powerful. Don't think we can give it to people.
Yeah.
Okay, if you would give us $2,000 a month, but no. I mean, it's
the McAfee power play, right? McAfee, the virus person, the person that created the first virus scanner, basically said, well, viruses are the new security vector of for computers. So way somewhere in the 1980s. And there two things happened. One, people were looking for a way to mitigate that. And surprise, surprise, he had a way to mitigate it with antivirus software. But he also pushed like the notion that viruses are a very interesting and lucrative way to inflict danger or inflict risk into companies. So all of a sudden, a lot of new virus makers also got their, I don't know, incentive, I guess.
Yeah. But I listened to this podcast, and it was a bit too hypey and too breathy, voicey. But a guy from Anthropic said that, I mean, this the new Mythos model, great name by the way.
Yeah, very mysterious.
Was running internally, and a researcher went to lunch, and when it came back, it had escaped the sandbox.
Oh yeah.
It escaped, right? And it's but I think this is one of those bitter lessons things, right? I mean, you have something that's upfront. You wouldn't know that it would be very good at X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
But it turns out it is.
Yeah.
Right, and that's this moment again. So somehow, these models in general, and probably the next generation model of Anthropic, why wouldn't it too?
Yeah.
Has this new capability that got all the security researchers that they have their panties in a twist now.
Do you think it's like a 3M, like a sticky note moment, right? They try to make glue to stick two surfaces together, and haphazardly they made like the sticky note glue?
I mean, apparently, what I read so far, and again, I'm not working there, but they didn't have the intention to make a model that's very good at pen testing.
Yeah.
But it turns out it is.
Yeah.
And I'm for sure they have done something in that direction, but not that specific.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the November models were trained to be good at coding, but I think they were a bit surprised how good they turned out to be at coding.
Do you think they might, like what I just said, they might say, okay, rather than going the single domain route, because they kind of like had this capacity problem.
Yeah.
That they couldn't fit all the domains into one model. So they make a router and basically decided, okay, you're asking about literature. Let's go to that specific domain. And now they say, you know what, we're colliding all those domains again together, and all of a sudden we see this new power.
Yeah, I think, I mean, a general research direction is dealing with large contexts in an effective manner. Yeah. Efficient and effective manner. Yeah. Right, and this seems to be one of those context thing, because you have the operating system and you have the web server and you have the web browser, and how do you really correlate all these things? So apparently, I mean, that would make sense that is a research direction that one would follow, and then you get the bitter lesson that it actually does things that really surprises seasoned security researchers. Yeah. All right. I mean, if you look at the paper that Anthropic published, I mean, it has Bruce Schneier on his name on there. I mean, he's not your average lorem ipsum
generator.
Yeah, generator. I mean, it's the. I mean, if somebody has a reputation and deserves one, it's him. Yeah. Right. So this is real. But this again is the bitter lesson again.
But do you think he also is kind of surprised about? So it's more the surprise that affected his.
I mean, I'm almost saying this in a good riddance manner, right? I think they have the same. I mean, I'm not talking to them, but I can assume they have the same surprise like I had when ChatGPT turned out to be a really good coder.
Yeah, exactly.
Better than my coding systems.
Yeah.
Right, and I thought, damn, how does the stupid thing? Because it is stupid.
It is. This, yeah.
Right, and again, that's the bitter lesson, and the bitter lesson is real. Which also is sobering, and etc. Right? I mean, you can be bitter about the bitter lesson. Yeah. But I think this is what we're seeing. Just enough compute, and there is a bunch of compute behind this. And then you get this, and then you get this, who knew?
Yeah, exactly.
And there it is.
Yeah, yeah. So the bitter lesson would also be, let's just put in more compute, even more, and let's see where we get the next aha-erlebnis.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next bitter lesson. Yeah. Right? I mean, what will that be?
Yeah, and even if it's bitter, I mean, you're surprised that a certain LLM is great at coding. The only reason that it was bitter, that is basically nulled all your efforts before.
Yeah. I mean, it's sobering.
To a lot of new developers, it might be like the perfect tool.
Of course, that's what it is. I mean, I'm actually now thinking, what was I thinking? Right? I mean, it's the. But again, here it is. Yeah. At some point, the dominant design forms, and this is what you get. I mean, if I'm into cars. And also now into old cars. Okay. And now in really, really, really old cars, as the early ones, right? And you see
like the 1900s.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so you had accelerator pedals that you need to pull instead of push. Yeah. So not down but up to actually accelerate, right? I mean, so
handles.
Yeah. It's the brakes that so many attempts at getting the thing done. Yeah. And of course now we. Converged on a dominant design, right? This is an accelerator pedal, right? Down is faster or more, whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, it's the with brakes the same. We even have a certain order for brakes and accelerate. I mean, and even electric cars adhere to that principle.
Although they are also changing that same thing. I watched this. It's a really weird segue, but I watched these videos about a man that. Helps out with people stranded at the side of the road with broken cars. So it basically picks them up and put them in a safe place. And so I see a lot of cars. I don't have a driver's license, so I don't see that many cars from the inside. And I saw like the recent generations of cars have a button for the brake, the system brake.
Yeah.
You know, there's like there used to be a lever. It's like, and then physically the wheels will be braked. But now it's like a button, like So he has to switch on the car.
Yeah.
And then say, oh, no, buddy, you're still Bluetoothed with your car. So could you please disable that? And then he could push the button. And to me, it's like, no. So I guess these patterns are also broken, right? It's as soon as we find it useless. I mean, we also lost the pedal.
We lost,
from
shifting
to automatic.
Yeah. And of course, we had automatic gearboxes for quite some time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But with electric, we don't have any shifting at all.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So we don't need that pedal.
Okay, some cars have, but they do it invisibly.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Porsche has a car that has a two-speed gearbox.
Okay, that's for their power.
Because they can, probably.
Yeah, probably.
While we as kunnen, I just can hear them say that in Zuffenhausen.
But so that's one of my core philosophies, specifically with unlearning people. That particular remark, because some people will say, "Why would you do that?" Because I can.
Yes.
Why would we go to the moon? I guess that was the first thing I heard that remark is because it's difficult.
Yeah.
Because we think we can't do it.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't we?
Yeah. It's called the moonshot for nothing, right? I mean, it's the not for nothing.
Yeah, but even with the small stuff,
of course,
it's a learning opportunity waiting, and I guess that appeals to us.
I mean, famous last words, right? What does this button do?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and we found out, and it cost us dearly, but we found out, and that a lot of great moments in history are bound to that.
Yeah.
What if we would not break like this certain conviction? What if we would not have this cultural change throughout our entire society and just gave it like all the energy and all the power?
Yeah.
What would happen? Well, we found out.
We found out and still finding out.
Yeah.
Bitter lessons.
Yeah. What was it? It's also something you would say to kids. It's like fuck around and find out. Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it kind of has a negative connotation.
I know, but also,
to me, it's like no, that's exactly what we do.
There is this great meme on the internet with a guy that actually has this little graph. One says fuck around, and one says find out, and he has one curve drawn here, and he said, well, but the more you're gonna fuck around, see, the more you're gonna find out. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's a scientific.
It's a scientific fact.
Yeah. Okay, let's go from this. Well, I wouldn't say bitter, but let's say it's definitely a lesson each and every time, and certainly we aren't finished learning from this interesting behavior of LLMs. To something I saw, and it seems to be a trend. I'm not sure, but it seems to be actors or people in the film world trying to do things with AI.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's very new. And the first reaction to AI was, in particular, from filmmakers and actors to, hey, this encroaches to our business. Yeah. I might be replaced by a virtual actor, I guess. That was the biggest threat. Or to the writers, we might be replaced by LLMs.
Yeah.
And so there are two actors that basically outed themselves as okay, we're entrepreneurs in the AI space. And the one is, I need to read this because I don't know how to pronounce her word, but it's Multipass. It's Mila Jovovich.
With her mem palace.
Yeah. And so she caught on with a very old model. Yeah. It's the memory palace. It's a way to remember things. Yeah. It's like old as in the Greek time, the Roman time, somewhere around that. Yeah. And apparently she tried to she stumbled upon it, and with the help of a very famous LLM or AI expert, she built it.
Yeah. And it's really her, right?
It's really her.
God, awesome.
Yeah. But I guess it's like she tumbled into a great idea or an interesting idea, and the application seems to be a little bit broader. So the bottom line is, what if you would cross this mind palace principle with LLM efficiency, the efficiency, efficient use of memory specifically.
Yeah.
And it seems to, in their tests, it seemed to compress memory a little bit more efficient than others.
Yeah.
And but there are also counter things. But she opened it up, so it's somewhere in the GitHub, and it's very interesting.
So what?
And after reading, like the benchmarks aren't that great, but they're interesting at the least. I also found out that Ben Affleck,
of course,
made another interesting leap. He had a startup. So basically, Ben Affleck is a very broad filmmaker, right? He started out as a writer, then haphazardly, because, well, money, he also became a director and an actor at the same time. And now he also, specifically with the AI, he also started to think about how can we use AI as a helpful tool that isn't a threat to the creative business.
Yeah.
And to me, that notion is interesting because it seems to like try to skirt that particular piece of, how would you call it, mores into their business, right?
Yeah.
And so how can we make sure people have work but aren't busy with busy work? And so he made things like, how can we organize our work automatically? How can we make sure if we failed a certain shot or we don't have budget to reshoot, how can we correct the things that we made? Like the malleability of the art without encroaching on creativity and creative expression. And that to me is like, well, you probably he made the tool. If this is going to be bought, and it's now bought by Netflix, who doesn't have any interest in creativity or creative mores. I would say the first thing I would do as Netflix is break all the safeguards and say, okay, now we have, now we can produce creative works without any boundaries. With very small budgets, with very few people.
Great. So you can have more.
Well,
Because Netflix needs more.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
better, but more.
Yeah, exactly.
More.
Yeah. So nothing is left about the attention of Mr. Affleck.
I have no idea. Can I say that The Accountant is the best movie ever?
The Accountant is very, very nice.
It's the final scene.
Oh, yeah.
Just thinking about it makes me cry again. Every time I know what, it's so good. When you actually learn who Showboat is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it kind of like, it also brings an insight into people that might be a little bit on the spectrum or a little bit much.
Yeah.
And to me, that to me was a very interesting thing to it also is very in the mode of today, right? It's very popular to do that. But to me it was quite. So he basically, it seems to say, being on the spectrum is not a limitation, but it is by all intents and purposes a very specific superpower. And it's if you are smart enough, like Ben Affleck plays in this film,
and is in real life, I have a feeling,
and probably also is in real life. It is a superpower. Yeah. And this superpower in this case is very like a very structured life and very structured way of looking, a very rational way of looking at things, which is very stereotypical. This is not for all people on the spectrum. There is also just blind chaos and emotion.
Of course.
At the other end. But nevertheless, a very interesting and very nice video. So please watch it.
Yeah, please watch. It's really good. No, but I think the especially the Ben Affleck case is really interesting. I mean, Mila's case is. But this is also an interesting one because one thing I notice is that old stuff becomes relevant again with large language models. I think we talked about this.
Yeah.
I mean, and now she comes up with a memory trick process system.
Yeah, it's a system. Yeah.
That now suddenly becomes very applicable again.
Yeah.
With these things that mimic human cognition.
Yes.
At scale.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the you see a lot of things. I mean, the same thing with the Zettelkasten, the second brain thing.
Okay.
So so I have to explain this one.
Yes.
Yeah, link in show notes. But it's was a German researcher. He wrote a ton of books.
Yeah.
And every idea, every observation, every reference he wrote down on a little card, and he put that in a big cupboard.
Yes.
Small card is called Zettel in Germany. The cupboard is Kasten, so Zettelkasten. Basically hyperlinks.
Or flashcards.
Flashcards, and every card referred to another card. It's that simple, really. I mean,
that's nice. I like that concept.
It's the end, and I've been using it for almost a decade and a half, as in Markdown.
Exactly.
Which I didn't know would be a medium for LLMs.
I mean, so we talked about it in the previous episode, or we kind of began that topic. And I found this is a thing. It's people writing all the things in Markdown because it's just like this very generic format.
Oh, yeah.
But also it's structured in some way, so it can also be a little bit recognized what's important, what's less important.
Yeah.
And it is fodder for an LLM. You can make your own LLM based on all your own work.
Yeah, you can make your own agent based on your own work. And that's what I have been doing with my second brain, or Zettelkasten.
Yeah.
And what was it last week, 2 weeks ago? André Capati, there he is again.
Yes.
He had an approach where his agent would collect all his little settles and consolidated that one in a wiki.
I
thought, that's a nice intermediate stage. Never thought about this one.
And what's the benefit of a wiki? Is like the cross references.
Yeah, there's a cross reference, and then you can have other agents reason about the wiki.
Yeah.
Right. Basically, what we just discussed, right? Operating system, web server, web browser, consolidate that one in one worldview, if you want, one wiki.
Yeah, one model. Yeah,
one model, and then have all the other agents reason and contribute to and on the wiki.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm now running as well on my separate Mac Mini. Of course, everybody has a separate Mac Mini nowadays, right? But this is an old idea. Wikis are old. Zettelkastens I think it's 1950s or something. Link in show notes, and probably will be earlier. So you see all these old techniques, and that people use to get by, become relevant again.
Yeah.
So when I saw the Mila thing, I said, of course. Not surprised. What's also interesting,
and perhaps even that the LLM is way better to do that, right? It has more capacity to.
Yeah, and this is another one. I mean, there's also a bitter lesson in itself. A smaller one is that whenever you have these complicated setups like RAG, right?
Yeah.
Retrieval augmented generation, right? Where you chunk your documents into vectors and store them in a vector database.
Yeah.
Compared to just have a structured repository of Markdown files.
Yeah. You mean the work already has been done.
Well, the
linking.
And the work can be done in runtime, right? And making the wiki is a form of RAG.
Yes.
But just an inspectable one.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
instead of a binary one.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I think that the World Wide Web became the World Wide Web is because HTML is text and not binary.
Yeah, and it's also understandable by machines and humans alike.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I can go into the wiki and read the wiki.
Yeah, and you can correct it even.
I can correct
or
it
enrich it.
I mean, whatever, right? And I cannot go into in a vector database and see the vectors.
Right.
I mean, they binary things.
Yeah.
And even if I decoded them into readable things, it would be a vector, so a list of 1024 numbers.
Yeah.
Between 0 and 1. I mean, I'm weird, but I'm not that weird. That I can read that stuff.
Well, I guess if you are a wiki editor, then you might be that weird. Then you would like, for example, make as much cross references as you can.
Sure. Yeah,
just because it's.
Yeah.
And
but again, I can read the wiki, I can see the wiki, and I can edit the wiki.
Yes.
I cannot edit a vector database by just opening a binary hex editor and just edit the things.
So it's like one of the best mutual formats that we can find between humans and LLMs.
Yeah. So I mean, and every time we have a complicated setup, and we replace it with something more simpler.
Yeah.
Either it's better, or it will be better with the next generation of LLMs.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, so RAG was a hack for the old ones because it had very small context windows.
Yeah.
And now, kind of in this camp. Again, a bitter lesson in the small.
Yeah, to me that's very. So one of my, I have like this bucket of ideas I really want to make, and one of the ideas is what I call the wonder machine. And the wonder machine is based on what we like to do, is wandering around and, oh, that's interesting. It's like being the ultimate distracted person. Every time you see something shiny, you go to it and you click on it and you go into this new shiny world.
So it's wandering with an A.
Exactly.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, or wandering as in being very curious.
For a time, that was my tagline on LinkedIn, wandering and wandering.
Yeah.
With an O and an A.
Yeah.
And people ask me, what do you mean?
In Dutch it's also very nice. It's dwaalmachine.
Dwaalmachine.
And I'm pretty sure if we do it in German, it might be even better. But the point is making as much references between things. So and the start is an art database.
Yeah.
Making tuples of art, let's say paintings and sculptures and etc., buildings even, and connect them through time, medium, artist, etc. and to me, I wasn't satisfied with that limited, with these limited connections, because I saw this one television program. It's called Beeldenstorm in Dutch, so it's. Statue storm. It's one of the things that happened in our history when Catholicism was not accepted anymore, and all of a sudden, specifically like it's very rich. There are all kinds of statues in the churches. It's very opulent. And the Lutheran people said this is not what we want, as they started breaking all these. Buildings, but also the statues, and that's Beeldenstorm. So this program talks about, okay, so this image or this painting has been made in this time, and that's why it looks. So, for example, expressionism is a typical reaction to the liberation from the Second World War. Or the First World War, I'm not sure. So I want to make that link. I want to make the link like this particular thing happened or is about to happen in history, and that's why this art exists.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like similar to like book printing. Book printing can only happen when. When it happened, it also started like education or on a really big scale.
Yeah, all these second order effects or a higher order effects.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
and I like those interconnected things, because I'm pretty sure at the end of the line, all things are connected that way.
Yeah. I mean, I just made an argument against vector databases. But one of the cool thing about them is if you embed things, text, in a vector database, it's you can link them on proximity based on meaning. Which also means you can take two things that are not proximity in meaning, and still try to make a convincing argument.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's also. I think it was also Anthropic that they actually modeled. It's a bit like photoshopping. They were actually manipulating their internal structure of their model to make certain connections that normally would not happen.
Right.
So, for instance, they manipulated the model in such a way that whatever you asked the model, it would mention the Golden Gate Bridge.
Ah.
And then it's amazing what kind of leaps of faith you actually get in the response, just to include the Golden Gate Bridge. Which is really, really interesting. I really want that as a feature, right? I mean, whatever you do, mention this. Whatever you do, don't mention this. And then, of course, I'm going to ask you that actually makes you mentioning this. So don't try to mention the word. Right? I mean,
don't think about pink elephants.
A pink elephant. Yeah. And I think, and again, this is the fascinating bits of this technology.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that you have this correlation on meaning or uncorrelation on meaning and just force it to.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever you do.
So we basically need to make an LLM, or the machine that makes an LLM, make it hypersensitive. Basically make it a little bit allergic to a certain thing, so it would react. Reacts abundantly.
Yeah.
And also when it doesn't need to.
Beyond what is plausible in regard with its training.
Yeah,
right?
what we would say is real or real.
This is a sufficient approximation of reality that they said, awesome, right? No, I mean, what? How did you get the Golden Gate Bridge in there?
Yeah.
I mean, how? But I mean, and again, this is the fun bit about this technology, right? It's It's not a search engine. It's not an answering machine. It's a wandering machine. I mean,
exactly.
It's literally about wandering with an A and an O.
Yeah.
Just wander and then
see things and say, ha! Yeah.
We literally said in unison, it's the, but that's the fun thing. And I mean, so also yesterday, I mean, somebody complaining again about LinkedIn, how stupid LLMs are. And if you ask it an answer, a question, you get a generic answer.
Yeah.
Well, don't ask it generic questions, bozo. Ask it silly things. Don't ask it wonder with me with an A.
Yeah.
And let's see what wonderment you can serve up to me.
Yeah.
Without knowing up front, it's not a bloody search engine.
Arr.
Yeah, I know somebody's wrong on the internet, right? I mean, but it's, I typically, well, this is the one.
Which is a meme. Link in the show notes.
Link in the show notes.
Well, what is it? It's like this image of a dark silhouette punching on keyboards, and his wife in a more closer proximity. Honey, are you coming to bed? And the person says, no, honey, somebody's wrong on the internet. And starts stamping on this keyboard. It's very interesting.
Which is brilliant, I think.
So, Ron, I have this proposition for you, and I think we should do it, because you are now a lecturer in the space of AI, and I think it might be... I think it's probably time to broaden that horizon already. And so, do you know Liedewij Edelkoort?
I do not.
You do not?
I have a feeling that in a short period of time I will say, of course I do.
Okay, so when I was young, I worked at a company, it's called Mediamatic. It's very well renowned in Dutch internet culture, because we were at the front line of the internet. We invented the internet. No, we invented the things on the internet while the internet was built underneath our feet. And to me, it was very wild. And this company has this interesting Venn diagram of technology, design, and art.
Yeah,
and which also implies that you start thinking about this very interesting intersection. And when I started moving in the space of art, I found out that a lot of artists were thinking about technology, possible impact, and how it might steer our society. And there's this one person that came from the direction of fashion. And she knew, which is Liedewij. And Liedewij knows a lot about fashion, about colors, about all kinds of things. But the way she predicts, and she made like a yearly or bi-yearly prediction on how the future might look like. And she did this for fashion. So the results were textures, clothing. Would it be tightly fit? Would it be very broad? Would it be very texturized, or would it be very smooth? Stuff like also what kind of colors.
Yeah.
And she does this like regularly. But when she does certain predictions, she also says, okay, let's put this in the context why this is, why we, for example, envelop ourselves in bland colors these days, right? The topic of a previous podcast. And she says, well, this is because of this, it is, it is. We're looking for like homogeny, for example, or it's like all kinds of psychological and societal things that make shape our future. And I think this is wonderful. And I think this is not happening enough in our world because we have like the McKinseys might be interesting. McKinsey has like this business overlap with technology. It kind of gleans into what technology might help business in the near future. We have Frog Design. It does similar things with the digital space, digital design and societal impact, but also vice versa. What society might need from digital design and digital designers. But there isn't something that is as broad as Liedewij Educo. Like the bridge is, to me, from my perspective, is so large, going from fashion to societal impact and vice versa, to me is like a huge bridge. And I think it's wonderful. I think it should exist in particular for our current world. And I think next to Liedewij, there is like a huge gap of people not doing that, a huge gap of technological companies and advisory companies, management companies thinking just about the things just in front of their noses rather than possible societal impact that it might have or the way we're thinking about things, but also the other way around. It's like, hey, we shifted our attention. Is this good? Yeah. Should we change it? And I think this opportunity lies before us as people that are a little bit distracted about more things than just the technology, right? We think about how, not per se. So there's also this one company. The name I think it's on here somewhere. I have this short list of names. Deloitte, IDC, for example, and Gartner.
Yeah.
They have this interesting way of gatekeeping. It's like everything needs to be sustainable or everything needs to be like a certain direction that's more a fashion rather than a... so it's more triggered by, hey, this seems to be like the way we are thinking at the moment, the things that our society finds interesting, rather than predicting what the next interesting thing might be. And I think this is something that needs to be done. And I think it's not done at this moment. I'm not sure. I mean, you frequently quote books that you read and things that you see. Are there like inspirations from outside the space of technology that you think like, hey, this might be an interesting way to guide us through this or broaden our horizon, change our perspective?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's my answer would be no.
Yeah,
I think, for instance, if you look at most futurists,
yes,
I think it's always very, very bland and it's and very unexpected, very predictable, even for the unpredictable stuff. It almost. What I always miss is the groundedness of things, right? It's about the opinion and selling as certainty.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the fashion bit is a bit more interesting. Well, a bit more.
It's very volatile. It can be.
Yeah.
It isn't at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, and that of course is, but because even though you don't see it the way I dress, but I'm really fascinated by fashion, right? I mean, it's like that famous quote in The Devil Wears Prada about the color blue. You think this is blue, right? And then this whole tirade about it, but as a system, right? I mean, fashion is really interesting, and the expression of where we are as people and society, and why do young people dress so incredibly bland and boring? And you should see how I was dressing when I was your age. But okay,
indeed.
But this is a really nice one to explore. Actually, I think I never dawned on me that the whole fashion, because I'm always there I go again. Always surprised how a whole industry moves without, I think, upfront collusion.
Yeah, there's no intent.
There is no intent, but still it moves like a system, right?
Yeah.
It's like an organism, and there are always fringes, right? But I mean, if I see the collection from this designer, and I can see the trend, right? I mean, but these trends, they're not sitting in a room and say, you know what, the trend for next week is it's going to be blue, right? Or something like that. No, so it emerges, but from a collective.
Yeah.
And what I don't like typically about the tech predictions, like Gartner, is it doesn't emerge from something bigger, right? It's just someone here when it says, this is going to be this.
Exactly.
And if you look at the hype cycle, it's going to be this, right? And all this certainty.
Yeah.
And the market for blockchains is going to be 4 trillion euros in 2025.
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy starting.
Yeah,
it's the start of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
There is a great book.
Prophecy.
Link in show notes. And then I'm going to stop.
Another great book.
Yeah, it's called A Camera, Not an Engine.
Yes.
Or an engine, not a camera, one of those things. It's a book about economic theories.
Yeah.
And the guy writes about, we think about theories as cameras that take a snapshot of things. Actually, they become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yes.
So because people start believing and acting on a certain theory, it actually becomes an engine because it comes true. And with all these hype cycle-y things, right, it becomes a bit self-fulfilling. Oh, Gartner says X, Y, Z. And we're going to buy X, Y, Z. And so this is the wrong order. And I have a feeling that with the whole fashion bit, the order is reversed.
Yes.
And and I'm rambling now a bit.
No. This is exactly what I intended to.
Yeah, fantastic.
To go, because I think so. I think this is worthwhile exploring.
Yeah.
Making connections that are. That can guide us rather than that can dictate futures.
There's also, I'm not really going to stop this. She has a great Substack, paid for, alas. A great book called The Business of Aspiration. It's Anya and then a Eastern European difficult name for me I should not pronounce.
Yeah.
But she also, the reason why I subscribed to her Substack is also in the fashion business and in the aspiration business and in the status business, and the ability to take this whole system and articulate it in what to a large degree of likeness could be next or might be next or should be next
or might be interesting
but in a much more grounded way, instead of having an opinion and just articulate it like, I mean, it is just like these fortune tellers, right? Oh, I can see. Oh, Ben Affleck is going to marry J-Lo again.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one. That's one.
Is that a prediction?
That's a blot on his copybook. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. It probably doesn't need to do that.
No, please don't. Ben.
Do they have children? I'm not sure.
No. But I saw a great clip of his where he bought a Yamaha R7. That's a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah.
So he also has this motorcycle thing. So,
oh, yeah.
And I'm so happy that Ben Affleck doesn't sell tequila like the other ones.
Oh, right.
But in the next episode, we should talk a bit more about this Ben Affleck thing. Because I think it's also a great pattern in how to deal with AI.
Okay,
and what it does to jobs. But that's for episode 14.
14. That's a great. I mean, if there's a cliffhanger, this is it. This is it.
Yeah, we're the king of cliffhangers.
So please meet us at episode 14.
When Dr. Bob says.
Yeah, so I don't know any of this reference. Anyway, so see you all in episode 14. This was It's Just a Model 13. If you're curious about what we actually talked about and went a little bit too fast for you, go to our website, itsjustamodel.com, and you'll find show notes made by Ron, and that's very informative. It might give you food to wonder about, depending on which letter.
It's more informative than a podcast itself.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Okay. This is more, let's say this is the entertainment combined with the informative.
That's it. Infotainment.
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, don't put me in a box. Break out of the box. Anyway, so Ron, thank you so much.
Thank you, Peet.
And we'll see you next time. Ciao, guys.